tourist coming into a country and want to make a payment, right now the card option is there, but it's a very costly affair for the merchant because the cards charge 3 to 3.5%. That's where we have introduced Lanka QR. Tourists from maybe China or India, wherever, comes to Sri Lanka should be able to just use his smartphone and scan and make a payment using Lanka QR. Do it cost effectively so that we facilitate the cross-border fund flow into the country through the banking system.
LankaPay has built and operates Sri Lanka's national payments network, connecting financial institutions, users and merchants to each other. It's now building on its local success by helping build payments infrastructure overseas and integrating those to Sri Lanka's. In the studio with us today are LankaPay Chief Executive Channa de Silva and its Deputy Chief Executive Dinuka Perera to discuss these global ambitions. Gentlemen, welcome to Echelon. Let me start with you, Channa. LankaPay is now going global. What exactly are your plans here?
Yeah, so I think the first what we wanted was to establish the local network so that we connect all the financial institutions, banks and finance companies into a network so that we can create a network that is completely interoperable. So I think that was our first step of doing that. Once doing that, we want to expand to see whether we can bring that same benefit to our organizations here, where even cross-border transactions can be facilitated through that network.
Sure.
So that is where we are looking at the region, where actually when we see the region, the Asia Pacific region is the fastest growing in this area, even more than the West and Europe, right? So in that sense, we are looking at connecting with those networks that are there, similar networks in other countries, so that we do cross-border transactions seamlessly across countries, so that we bring the cost of cross-border transactions down, because we will be directly linking with those networks rather than going through other international networks to bring that benefit.
Explain this to me. So you suggested at the outset that you have connected all the banks and financial institutions in Sri Lanka, right? Is it at one level that you have connected them, or are there several layers of how LankaPay has interlinked these? What are the products?
Yeah, so there are different areas that we have connected together. For example, originally how it worked was Lanka QR. What it did was basically set up interbank check clearing. So for check clearing between banks, we set up the network. And then it moved into electronic. One aspect was we connected all the ATMs together so that a customer could go to any bank's ATM and withdraw money or check the bank balance. And then the next step was to connect them electronically so that fund transfers can happen electronically in real time. So that's the third network. And based on that third network, so we have basically built the railroads, plumbing. So now what we are doing, we are bringing in different vehicles in terms of products so that more and more people get the convenience of using them in different channels, whether it's from your internet, whether it's from your mobile, and other means. So that's what we have been doing in terms of providing more and more options for consumers to, and providing them more convenience to do financial transactions.
So as you go global, you talk to us about three levels at which you've connected the financial sector: the check clearance, the ATMs, and then what you call SWIFT, where you do interbank transfers,
That's
right?
correct.
So when you say you want to connect your network with others in Southeast Asia and maybe South Asia, at what level are you looking at connecting?
Yeah, so primarily two areas we're looking at. One is connecting the ATM so that a customer of either country can go to a ATM of that other country and withdraw cash. So that is one level, which is already established through other international schemes right now, but they are very costly. So we want to do it at a cost-effective manner. The second one is actually carrying out a fund transfer between two countries. From another country to here, as well as other way around, where real time you should be able to do that at a minimal cost, right? But the only thing is we have gone beyond that. Now, for example, if you want to make a payment to a merchant, say a tourist coming into a country and want to make a payment, right now the card option is there, but it's a very costly affair for the merchant because the cards charge 3 to 3.5%. But that's where we have introduced Lanka QR. Tourists from maybe China or India, wherever, comes to Sri Lanka should be able to just use his smartphone and scan and make a payment using Lanka QR and do it cost effectively so that we facilitate the cross-border fund flow into the country through the banking system.
So somebody from overseas scanning a QR code here will immediately instruct his or her bank in the home country to transfer the money to the merchant through the financial system.
That's
on a real-time
That's
basis.
correct. Yeah.
Right. Dinuka, if I can bring you in, Dinuka, how have you managed to adapt the organization, which was very focused on, digitalizing the financial transactions and the infrastructure here to do this? Where did this come from? What sort of adaptation have you required?
Before I answer that, let me just add to what Channa said earlier in terms of going global. While we are forging partnerships with our like-minded institutions elsewhere, we are also looking at the possibility of taking some of our products overseas. For example, we have a digital signature solution. We are seeing whether that can be taken to other countries. We are looking at Nepal as a destination. Some of our clearing products, whether we can offer them in a regional basis so that those countries, because we believe we have a very cost-effective solution. So we are looking at those options also to take some of our products overseas as well in collaboration with partners. Coming back to your question, in terms of looking at this expansion going globally, it's also a mindset change. Like Channa said, that we were focused on building the roads within Sri Lanka. Now we are looking to fly out. So our staff also need to be prepared for that journey. So we have identified a set of staff who we consider as high performance team. So we are taking very constructive efforts to upskill them to prepare them for our journey. So it could be preparing them with skills such as negotiation skills, etiquette training. So whole heap of organizational transformation in terms of organization development and talent management is also happening while we are embarking on this journey.
So I think one other aspect is when you are going international, the demanding aspects of going international and also competitive nature. Unless we also work in that same model, we will never be able to succeed, because probably domestically you might be able to manage with a medium level performance, but when you go international, you have to compete on equal or better footing than them. Otherwise, you sort of get left out. So that's where we are up in the game in terms of skills, expertise, and also technology. Because one of the things that why we feel that we can succeed is when we look at solutions, we look at the consumer first, providing convenience to consumer first. So that's not restricted to consumers in Sri Lanka only, right? So that's why we feel that we should be able to take our solutions elsewhere as well.
Sure. Can you talk to us about, you talked about potentially going in global in two different tracks. One is with by your linking the Sri Lankan financial system to one's overseas, and then second, taking the products that you have to other markets. How is the lay of the land looking like? Which initiatives do you think will succeed first? What are your priorities?
Yeah, so I think the first step would be connecting with the networks, because that is the low-hanging fruit, because we already have the network, they already have the network, so once you interconnect, both sides can benefit. So actually the first step we have done is we have tried to connect the QRs on either side. So for example, if you take Nepal has about 1.2 million with merchants with QR codes.
Wow.
Right? That's a massive market. I mean, you generally when you think of Nepal, you don't really envisage that. But when we see the actual market, it's there. So and vice versa. So right. So once you connect, both sides, citizens of both sides will benefit. End of the day, either when they travel or for whatever purpose. So that would be our first step. But the second step is we have also seen some gaps in the markets in those countries.
Sure.
And also something, for example, digital loans is popular in certain countries. So that probably is a solution that we can bring here. And digital signatures and similar technology is not available in other countries. So those are the things. So it's more of a collaboration where what works well in a particular country, we will collaborate and see what are the technologies then either side can benefit. So that's sort of our overall thing, is saying we are going into a model where there's already players in there. We don't want to be competition. It's more like partnerships to for both sides to benefit.
Right.
There are a number of countries who do not have a legal framework right now to accept digital signatures and whatnot. So it's not only about our products. So we will be with the consultants, if you will, for them to put out such frameworks as well, because you need to have the legal framework first before you go and implement such projects. So there has been interest from South Asian countries as well as African countries to see how we can take some of our products to those countries.
So surely, having done this, you have that know-how about how to how the legal framework, the regulatory framework should be structured. Also, so it sounds like Dinuka, this is a fairly vast undertaking. The potential is huge. It sounds like.
It is as well as an opportunity, because probably there are not too many players like us who have been part of putting together legal regulatory frameworks as well as having the products to support those. So we are at a unique position to support those countries to also have these kind of products.
Channa, you also mentioned that you'd like to do this more as a partnership instead of enter these markets as a competitor. So I suppose there may be certain areas where you will want to be a competitor with a product, but in terms of helping set up ecosystems, your approach will be partnership.
Yeah, because the whole idea is we don't know the domain, we
Right.
don't know the territory, right? Player there would know the market. Same way, what we know that we know our market best. So rather than trying to go and create market, which is not a simple thing, we would rather partner and get both sides to benefit more than just trying to go by ourselves. I think that probably is a better option for us to move, unless we have like a worldwide army of people which we don't have right now.
As CEO, you are responsible for the long-term vision of the organization. You have to look at today's requirements, but also keep your eye on the future. I suppose you spend a lot of time looking at the future. When you do that, what do you think are the strengths that you have as an organization, and what are those areas that you think you need to sort of improve on to be globally successful?
Yeah. So I think the strength is we have always tried to be a facilitator, an enabler, than trying to do it ourselves everything,
Sure.
right? So in that sense, what we have really done is not sort of reinvent the wheel. We have actually looked at what is happening in other countries. And sometimes adopted, because you don't have to reinvent the wheel. I mean, if somebody has already done it, taking something out and fitting it into our context makes sense, right?
Sure.
So that's probably what we have done all this time.
Sure.
Our belief is this can't be the first time a requirement has risen in the world. Other parts of the world, it would have been done before. So there we can learn and adopt. But only thing is you might be able to not be able to just take something that works in another country and just plug it here. It won't work because our context is different. So what we have done is we have taken those and adapted to our local. I'll take a simple example. When we implemented Lanka QR, we didn't go and define the standards. Because there was a worldwide standard called EMV Core QR. And what we did was we simply adopted that and localized it, so that locally also it will work. Internationally also when people use it, it will work, so that it becomes interoperable. Because otherwise what happens is if we define our own standard, in order to integrate, we would have had to go through a lot of difficulty. So that's why we sort of looked at the future and said, okay, the future is it's going to be interoperable worldwide, countries-wide, right? Then we have to go with the worldwide system which is acceptable rather than trying to define our own standards. So that's what we have sort of followed, and that's why we feel we should be able to go to other countries and connect, because we are following the international standards, both in technology as well as security. Because security is a key pillar of success in this, because without security, the trust is gone. So we are following international standards. We are getting audited by international organizations to make sure that our systems are secure. So both ways, we are working on those lines of thinking.
Dinuka, when you look at the evolution of LankaPay, you've been there 5 years, and I think that 5 years has been a time of rapid change, right? Not so long ago, it was only doing check clearing, and that process was digitalized some time ago, I think. Yeah. But everything that's happened since, from connecting the ATM networks to SWIFT to Lanka QR to digital signatures, all that has happened in very rapid, short period of time. How does an organization organization keep pace with this kind of rapid change, from one product, one service to a portfolio?
When you look back at LankaPay, when we were Lanka Clear back then, we started off as check clearing. So it was a very manual intensive work, right? And then it evolved into a more of an electronic way of doing things. But that was our bread and butter a few years back. But when we took on these new digital products, we still worked with the existing staff. We hardly got people from outside, but for a few key positions we did so. But more or less the core remained the same. So it was a matter of somehow getting our staff motivated, technologically upskilled for them to embrace this new technology. So it involved a lot of training, a lot of R&D, and also making sure we keep innovation also upfront, because we need to keep pace with the technology changes. So it has not been a very easy task, but we are proud to say that our staff have stepped up and delivered when it mattered.
May also have implications in Sri Lanka, right? It looks like Sri Lanka has an opportunity to lead some of the region in the transformation. What do you think from your vantage point? How do you quantify that? How do you explain the potential impact?
Yeah, so the potential impact is both ways. Now, for example, right now we are struggling with the economic crisis and all that. So right now we need foreign exchange to come. So that the best way is to enable that through digital means. So that's one of the areas that we are looking at, the tourists coming in to facilitate that. The other area is obviously we need to look at gaps in the markets in those countries. And if we selectively target those with some of our line of thinking, the expertise that we have, that we can go and create some of this. For example, if you take the African market, fair bit of those countries don't even have a national payment network established. So now with our expertise and experience, we can advise them, help them to set them up, and maybe provide some of our solutions which works in those countries and customize them to those countries. So those are sort of larger opportunities that we can see, and only way is we would not want to do it alone. We would like to partner with some of those networks so that we can share our expertise and make that a valuable proposition for both sides. Then only it will sort of grow and stride forward, right? So which is what we are trying to do in terms of, and also I think the main thing is how we look at it, the out way we look at it. Everything that we do through technology is to add one level of convenience to the consumer, right? For example, if you take check clearing, 7 checks that took 7 days to clear, we did it in 1 business day, right? And which is providing convenience to consumers. The ATMs, rather than going to your own ATM, now you can go anywhere and to any ATM, right? So which is convenience. And fund transfer, rather than going to a Pradesi Sabha and trying to make a payment, now you can do it from home through digital means. So it's actually looking at how we can provide convenience, because what we are trying to do is primarily we are trying to move people away from cash into digital, and that's a behavioral change. In order to make a behavioral change, that's the most difficult thing to do. But if you look at what are the gaps in the market, what are consumers looking for, and what would provide them more convenience, then it will be more convincing. Whatever payment mode that we provide has to be simpler than cash. Otherwise, they won't shift. Right? So for them to shift, we have to provide a solution which is more convenient than using cash. For example, one touch pay, right? Now, for example, one of our fintech partners, this mobile reloads. The mobile reloads was a nightmare during COVID. So what they did was they implemented through using some of our systems like Just Pay. Now you can do one touch reload of your mobile. And that actually, now, the numbers went through the roof in that. So which means obviously consumer was starving for that type of solution in the market. And that also in our context, right? And that worked, because the way we look at it is how can we provide more and more convenience to what they are doing so that the adoption will increase, rather than just putting a technology and hoping it will work.
Are you optimistic about possibilities here and the region? What gives you reason for optimism, if at all?
Yeah, I think optimism is very high. Right? We always feel that there's nothing beyond our reach. That's our line of thinking, because if it's all mindset game, right? If you feel you can get something done, and most likely you will get it done. And if you think negative, obviously you're not going to get it done. So I think it's the attitude first, right? because technology is technology. I mean, technology here or technology overseas is technology. It's your mindset and the way you look at it and how you adapt it to the context that you are in is what is going to make success. So if you look at something and if you adapt it to that context, and also look at market requirements, market gaps, and address those through technologies, hopefully the likelihood of success will be higher than you are just blindly putting something. So that's I guess the line of thinking and also the confidence we have in what we have delivered and what we can deliver in the future. I would say sky is the limit.
Just to add to what Channa said, I think our confidence mainly comes from the successes we had locally. Every product we have come out with have been successful. The adoption has been quite good. And also the trust we have in our staff to deliver. Those two propels us to believe that we can compete in any market.
It's profound what you've been talking about here, your focus on the consumer and making it possible for them to do things then it is easier to do with cash, right? But you also have underlying technology, right? Tell us a bit about the structure, about how this technology is developed. There is code, there is software,
Yes.
there are APIs you have to integrate, make sure these systems are robust and secure. Tell us a bit about that.
So one of the conscious decisions we have taken is that we won't become a software house. We won't do our own development. We have always worked through technology partners or solution integrators. So all our products, including our main switch, these are state-of-the-art products, technology products, we have procured, and we get the support of our partners for the running of it.
Sure.
But our staff, we have trained to operate them. So this is the model that we are adopting. So I'm not sure whether we are just 100 plus staff, and we have undertaken such a challenging task. So with 100 staff, we have delivered much more than what a small organization can do. So our reliance, our confidence in our technology partners, and our confidence in our own staff to operate these systems has been our secret formula for our success.
Yeah, and if I just add, you talked about 5 years ago. Our number of staff has increased probably about 2 or 3. And the amount of solutions that have come out is actually from that pretty much the same number. So it's actually a mindset change and thinking sort of out of the box and see how we can do things. And also, at the end of the day, once the plumbing is in place, it's putting icing and providing that additional. So when we call products, right? For example, whether you call Just Pay or whether it's QR, it's running on the safe platform. It's the real-time fast platform. But from a consumer perspective, it provides them it addresses a different need of theirs, right? So in that sense, what we are looking at is different consumer requirements and adapting or changing, the front end of the solution so that it will cater to their requirements. So that's basically what we have been looking at to provide, additional. So that's part of changing consumer behavior, because if they think that it's going to help them, they will use.
And by not having the technology people in-house, you are freeing yourself to focus on what's most important to you.
Absolutely. It's the conceptualization that is most critical.
Right.
Looking at what needs to be done, and then going and discussing with them what is the best way to do that is the technology partner. Because otherwise what actually happens is you get bogged down in development and all that, and not time to go to market, all those things. And then you have to maintain an army of developers and all that, which is a different kettle of fish than actually running a network. So our core is look at conceptually what should happen in this network and how can we add value than to actually go and do the actual development. So then it actually you get the best of both worlds.
One of the fundamental questions we ask whenever we think about a product is, how does this bring convenience to the end consumer? That is the question we ask first. And then starting from there, we look at what we can offer.
As a company, I'm sure your revenue is dependent on volume and value of transactions. There must be some link to these things.
It's mostly the volume.
Mostly the volume. So now that you've had from one product, now that you have this suite of products and potential to link with global networks also, you must be fairly optimistic. You must be doing quite well and optimistic about the future in that sense.
Yeah, we have our numbers have grown by 6 times.
Wow. Okay.
Right. So that itself, I mean, our numbers are public. I mean,
Sure.
the financial numbers are public,
sure.
right? And it's actually vastly, over the last 5-6 years, it has sort of tremendously grown. And the good thing there is actually the way we look at it is that is actually put back into new developments, innovation, because you need investment, right? I mean, with this crisis, you can't go and borrow. So what we have really done is we have established what's called a technology reserve fund, which is to look at new developments. I mean, if you take a company like Google, they build 100 products and probably 95% fail, right? And then they take that 5% through R&D. But unfortunately for us, I think we have not had to go through that, but because I'm not saying we are better than Google, but at least, what we look at is, okay, when we look at the market requirements and say, okay, this is something that we see, and sometimes we actually do market research to get some feel of the market and then put a solution out. So I think that has been sort of the mantra of success.
Sure. As we close, Dinuka, how has your own role in this organization changed? The organization has transformed. What has it been like being in this organization at that time?
It's been a revelation. I mean, out of all the stints I had previously, I believe this has given me a lot of national exposure personally. But from an organizational perspective, previously I was there as the Chief Operating Officer. I was taking care of more of the operations. But now as the Deputy CEO, I'm together with Channa, we need to focus on our vision, mission, our strategic objectives. How do we go global? How do we make sure our staff is ready for that challenge? So it has been, for me personally, been a very transformative journey, and I have learned a lot during this time at Lanka.
And I'll come to you for any final words, Channa, about the topic.
Yeah, I think it's again, when you look at something, the success really depends on how confident are you of delivering something. I think that has been our part. So we are confident that whatever challenges, whatever problems that are given to us, we can deliver. So I think that has been part of the success, and hopefully it will continue to be so.
Channa, Dinuka, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us.